is the news on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
Peace is the path to the prosperity of a nation. Let peace reign. On the news this afternoon, organized labor suspends protests after meeting President Tinubu. Federal government promises to repair Port Harcourt refinery. Aggrieved staff of Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission picket office with casket. Lawyer accuses President Tinubu of flouting constitutional provision in submission of ministerial nominees. Defense headquarters speak on military operations in Niger Republic. And on the foreign scene, heightened security in Washington, D.C. ahead of Donald Trump's court appearance. I'm Sam Chinedu, and here's the news. The Nigeria Labour Congress says it will no longer go ahead with its protest following the intervention of President Bola Tinubu and the Senate. The resolution followed the National Executive Council meeting of the Congress. The National Treasurer Hakeem Ambali said this in a statement after the meeting today. Recall that after a meeting with President Bola Tinubu yesterday, President Tinubu promised that his government will ensure that the Port Harcourt refinery starts operations by December 2023. President Tinubu, according to a statement by his special advisor on Special Duties, Communications and Strategy, Dele Alake, said production will begin after the ongoing rehabilitation contract between Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and Mayor Technimont SPA is completed. President Tinubu pledged that he will continue to work in the best interest of Nigeria, encouraging the labor leaders to join forces with him to create a better and more prosperous country. As you may know, the Port Harcourt refinery is one of the country's 4 oil refineries located in Warri, Port Harcourt, and Kaduna. In 2021, the NNPC started rehabilitation of the refinery after a sum of $1.5 billion was approved for the project. Several timelines have been established in the past for when the refinery will be operational. In September 2022, former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva, said the old Port Harcourt refinery would become functional by the end of last year. In March 2023, Mr. Silva said the plant would start refining activities before the end of the second quarter of 2023. The NLC President Joe Ajaero spoke to newsmen after the meeting with the President yesterday.
The issues are the same issues that led to the protest today. And he has expressed his position, made some commitment, which we are taking side by side with what the National Assembly said, the Senate said, and we're taking it back to the office with our colleagues there to review it and release a document on our next line of action. We have gone deeper into them. You know, the brokers are broader issues, but there are 1 or 2 things that need immediate attention.
The NLC President also said the union's National Executive Council will meet today.
No one person can call it off. That's why I say we have to go back to the office so that they look at it, the ESCO looks at it before they come up. And by tomorrow, the NSC will have equally their next meeting, to look at a bigger picture.
The president telling to suspend the protest.
The president is a pro-democratic activist, so he understands protests.
Meanwhile, the Senate has set up a committee to dialogue with protesting labor unions who broke down the first gate of the National Assembly complex. The protesters in their hundreds marched from the Unity Fountain in Abuja to the complex in demonstration against what they call the anti-poor policies of President Bola Tinubu's administration. Upon their arrival at the National Assembly complex, the protesters pulled down the first gate of the complex and marched to the premises. Senate President Godswill Akpabio immediately entered into a closed-door session with the lawmakers. Senate Chief Whip Ali Ndume, who is in charge of the new committee, and Senator Ireti Kingibe later met with the protesters at the National Assembly.
you to call off the strike and give us 1 week, and we will report progress, and if you are not satisfied with the progress we are making, then you can take further action. This should serve as a warning to the presidency, to the National Assembly, to everybody. Then if nothing very tangible comes out of our effort, then you can take action.
Just give us a chance to get involved, just a little chance, and we will make sure if things are not resolved in your favor, I am representing you. You can trust me.
The TUC president spoke to newsmen afterwards.
But when we are in that meeting, we assess what you are telling us. When you are in that meeting, we look at everything. Those things, are you really serious about this, or is it just a jamboree? And we will also address Nigerians. So they have said 1 week, so we will go back now and we will re-examine the situation and we will communicate to Nigerians.
The NLC president who led the protest also spoke.
We demand the immediate implementation in good faith of all resolutions with Congress jointly signed with the government and TUC. Immediate reversal of all anti-poor policies of government, including the recent hike in PMS price, school fees and VAT.
In Rivers State, the protesting organized labor marched from Labour House to the Government House in Port Harcourt and submitted a 5-point demand to the state government, asking that it be transmitted to the federal government. They were received by the Chief of Staff to the Government House, Chima Amadi, who represented Governor Similai Fubara.
His Excellency has assured that he feels the plight of his people, the pains that our people are going through, that he feels it as your leader, as your servant, and has asked that I should appeal to each and every one of you to be patient. At the state level, he has asked that I should assure you that he is restless and he is ever willing to do everything within his power as the governor of Rivers State to ensure that the challenges that are being felt by not just only members of the labor, but the generality of the masses of Rivers State are properly addressed.
Earlier, the chairman of NLC in the state, Alex Agwanwo, read the demands of the protesting workers.
We ask for immediate implementation in good faith of the resolutions with the Congress jointly signed with government and TUC. We request for immediate reversal of all anti-poor policies of government, including the recent hike in PMS price, school fees and VAT. We ask that our local refineries in Port Harcourt, Warri, Kaduna should be fixed immediately.
Mr. Agwanwo also called for the reversal of what he called all anti-people policies. The TUC chairman in the state, Foster Onyefuru, also spoke. Correspondent Soibi Oruwari reports that NLC members and its affiliate bodies attended the one-day protest in their uniforms. Over 6 security patrol vans were on ground to ensure the protest was violence-free. In another development, the federal government has filed a contempt proceeding against the labor unions for allegedly defying an order restraining the unions from embarking on industrial action. In Port Harcourt, the zonal chairman of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria in the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Maman Jimkuta, tells our correspondent
in Nigeria. This protest will be sustained when this organization was DPR. If you see our production and you see the production now, you drop over 40%. This drop is
that 3 drivers yesterday to conjunction in the local government area rate. They said members of the River State Task Force fully stopped a truck and the truck driver for not having the basket for the vehicle. Narrating the incident, some of the driver were put on the road.
Just our the local government not send this boy to do this.
It is able in the state. If the drivers are not there, the task force will not work. So no is their problem.
Also, South and the local workers, heavy duty truck section, Mohammed Umar, explained how he asked the drivers to unblock the road and allow the police resolve the conflict.
The road is totally blocked now. We try to tell the driver make a highway to open the road so that police can handle the matter. The matter happened in front of police test. That's why we reported the matter to police. We are calling attention for Commissioner of Police and the Governor of the state to take over and arrest those people.
Still to come, lawyer accuses President Tinubu of flouting constitutional provision in summation of ministerial nominees. Stay tuned.
see me right now. Hey, Sarafum don't come out with a bonge promo. When they say if you buy Flex, Optima, Omega, and Beauty Sleep mattress, you go win plenty award.
You never finish. Buy 142 by 8 inches mattress on a bed and get one.
A senior advocate of Nigeria, Ebun Oluwa Adegboruwa, has accused President Bola Tinubu of not complying with the provision of the Constitution in the manner he submitted his ministerial nominees to the state. Adegboruwa claimed that Tinubu failed to fulfill the requirements of the Constitution when he sent only 28 names of ministerial nominees to the Senate against the constitutional provision of sending names from each state, including the FCT. The senior advocate of Nigeria made the observation while speaking as a guest on Channel's television program today. Recall that yesterday, President Tinubu submitted the names of 19 additional nominees after the initial 28, making it 47, the highest number of ministerial nominees in Nigeria's Fourth Republic. The military high command says it had yet to get directives to begin operations in the Niger Republic. In a statement today, the Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General Tukur Gusau, said the defense chiefs in the region were still meeting in Abuja and will submit their plans to the head of governments and states for approval. General Gusau said without their approval, the military cannot commence operations in Niger. The defense headquarters was reacting to news reports that the military had begun assembling troops for the military action in Niger after ECOWAS threatened to commence military operations in the country should the junta ignore the one-week ultimatum. In business, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has given digital money lenders 5 days to prove they are operating within its set guidelines. It also asked Google to remove 18 digital lenders from Play Store for violations of its guidelines. The FCCPC said compliance with its guidelines was now mandatory, and failure to do so was a violation of the law. In entertainment, Davido's fourth album, Timeless, has surpassed 1 billion streams across Spotify, Apple Music, Audiomack, YouTube, and Boomplay. The album has surpassed 123 million streams on YouTube and 190 million on Apple Music. In sports, Somalia has suspended a sports official for nepotism after a novice sprinter, Nasra Ali, was allowed to compete in an international sport competition. Ali took almost twice as long as the winner to finish 100 meters at the World University Games in China. And on the international scene, former U.S. President Donald Trump will be formally charged at a court hearing today on charges of plotting to overturn his 2020 election defeat. On the eve of the arraignment, he slammed the case as proof of the corruption, scandal, and failure of the U.S. under Joe Biden's presidency. Mr. Trump already faces 2 other criminal cases as he campaigns for the White House next year. Security is being ramped up in Washington, D.C. for today's hearing. On the news this afternoon, you heard Organized Labour says it will no longer go ahead with its protest after meeting President Tinubu. The federal government has promised to ensure that the Port Harcourt refinery starts functioning from December 2023. Aggrieved staff of Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission have picketed their office with caskets. Lawyer Ebun Oluwa Adegboruwa is also accusing President Tinubu of flouting the constitutional provision in the submission of ministerial nominees. Defense headquarters speak on military operations in Niger Republic, and on the foreign scene, heightened security in Washington, D.C. ahead of Donald Trump's court appearance. The news was edited by Onyekachi Nwosu. Mostly sunny weather in Port Harcourt this afternoon. Peace is a path to the prosperity of a nation. Let peace reign. I'm Sam Chinedu. Thanks for listening.